Insurance. We have Mike Duncan back with Nationwide Insurance. How this all started is 2 years ago, our boss read or heard about a 12-year-old dying in a grain bin. He says, this crap has got to stop. What we can do to help stop this? So 2 years ago, we developed Grain Bin Safety Week. That year, we had 30 applications, and we gave away one tube to
Westphalia, Kansas.
thank you, Westphalia, Kansas. This year, I think there's 300 applications, and we're giving away 12 tubes. A lot more participation from other companies, GSI, KC Supply, CHS. A lot of people are donating to this because it's serious. Last week, we were in Nebraska, and on Monday or Tuesday that week, a 76 or 79-year-old gentleman got caught in a bin on the farm. We read the article, and when he got trapped, he's like up to his knees, and Dan's gonna go through this. Somebody said, well, let's get some grain out of there. So they turned the auger on. Now we're up to our waist. They tried to pull him out. They tried to do this. By the time they called for help, he's up to his chest. That's what we're trying to prevent, is deaths and things like that. So that's when we started Grain Bin Safety Week.
So my name is Dan Dean, and I'm from the National Education Center for Ag Safety. We're going to do probably about 55 minutes worth of classroom, and then we'll spend the balance of the time out in the bin. So looking for volunteers to sink into the bin, and then rescuers to go in after and actually sink them. So I told the chief I was looking for somebody in shorts, and we talked about the first person walking in shorts would be the first person going into the bin. So there we go. Okay. The reason I want somebody in shorts is when we sink her into the bin, she's going to be in there no longer than 12 minutes as we go in and we rescue her out. The grain is going to have such pressure on her body, it's going to put pock marks on her legs. And what I want to do is time it from the time she comes out of the bin until the time those pock marks disappear. It's probably going to be about an hour and a half. So, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of pressure that's going to be there. Now, I like to teach with humor. So do we have any farmers in here today? May have a joke or two coming your way. Any county roadway workers in here tonight?
Pat's not here.
Well, there'll be a joke at his expense. And of course the chief. You know, you gotta be able to have a joke with the chief. But feel free to shoot it back at me, okay? I think if you have fun, you learn. When we go outside, we'll do the first evolution with everybody watching because everybody wants to see what's going on. Then we're going to split you into two groups. We'll have people up top that are sinking and going through the rescue process with the tube, and then for a full engulfment, what we'll do is we'll get you in full bunker gear, and we're going to teach you how to cut into the grain bin panels themselves. So we'll work with that. You'll need full bunker gear tonight as you do that. If you go up and into the bin, we've got harnesses. I'm going to ask that you put on a harness, your helmet, glasses, and gloves if you're going into the bin. If you're cutting, you're going to need full protective gear. If you're not cutting and you're not wearing gear, I'm going to ask you to stand about 30 feet back from the trailer because we're going to throw some hot sparks and we don't need anybody getting hit that doesn't need to, as far as that goes. So that's kind of the plan for the night. What I thought I'd do would be to start out with some agricultural trauma pictures, things that you may find as you respond out to calls in rural America. So as we take a look here, we've got a blank screen. There we go. PTOs are spinning at 540 revolutions per minute. There's only about 4 to 6 inches worth of room between the PTO and the drawbar. So folks get wrapped up in there. This was a post hole digging incident. Augers, you're going to find unshielded augers on the farm. By today's safety standards, there shouldn't be any bigger than a 3x3 opening over the top of that auger. But a lot of them are missing or were never there, right where kids are working and playing. That's a degloving injury from a corn picker. Auger injuries, it is okay to cut and take the auger with you to the hospital. In fact, that's preferred. Because remember, as that auger, the harm goes in at full speed, we can't reverse it at full speed. And if we reverse it at a slower speed, we're going to get multiple more cuts. Okay? Children are unfortunately involved in ag trauma. Hydraulic injection injuries. If you suspect a hydraulic leak, one, never look for it with your hands, but But two, if you're an EMS provider, you're gonna treat that as a burn, because that's what it is. That's a hand up into the cross auger of a combine. Guys, your spouse talks about washing your hands after you go to the bathroom. You're dealing with farm chemicals. I want to talk about washing your hands before you go to the bathroom, eat a sandwich, rub your nose, or rub your eyes, because those chemicals are looking for a way into your body. This next picture is going to be an eyeball that was sprayed with anhydrous ammonia. If we put an A in front of something in high school chemistry, it means without. Hydrous is water. So it's without water and desperately seeking water. What are we made up of? 70% water. So we also have a brand new how to respond out to a grain storage, fire, and explosion. If you're having a bad day, it can always get worse. National Farm Safety and Health Week coming up here, third full week in September. Ag safety is not just a slogan, it's a lifestyle is our theme for this year. So this is our hands-on training center over in Peosta, Iowa. Your neighbor could be your next victim. As a member of a rural volunteer department, there's a very good chance that every call that you go out on, you are going to know who that is, and that takes a toll on us. Iowa paramedic and a lieutenant with the Epworth, Iowa Fire Department, and if you've heard of the Epworth Fire Department within the last year, it probably wasn't a good thing. Last August 2nd, we had 4 14-year-olds killed in a UTV accident. Pickup truck ran a stop sign, went through and hit the UTV with 4 14-year-olds on there. One of the 14-year-olds was one of our other lieutenant's sons. He was up at the station all the time. So, I mean, it really had an effect. So, it can happen at any time, and when it does happen, it can have a lasting effect. So, like Jim talked about, what we're looking at is what can we do to stop that. So, we have a sister program to this for farmers. It's an OSHA-approved confined space grain bin entry program, and we also do the rescue programming. At NECAS, we specialize in doing ag rescue training, so we do tractor rollover, combine auger rescue, grain bin rescue. We've got a confined space manure pit rescue simulator to be able to go in and do a rescue there, and also how to respond to a grain storage facility. So with that one, after I burn the first one down, well, you know, but that's a theory classroom, good wintertime program. Basically sizing up your bin, how much product is in it, what's your fire load, figuring out your water flow, what you're going to need to be able to put it out, and then where are you going to get the water, how are you going to set up your shuttle system to make it work. Okay? This always works better when you turn it on. So NECAS is a partnership between Northeast Iowa Community College and the Ag Division of the National Safety Council. If we take a look at statistics on farming, 2.1 million farmers, down from 2.3 million at the last census, but roughly 2% of the population is involved with feeding 100% of us. But if we look at injuries and fatalities, 70,000 disabling injuries per year, 500 fatalities in 2013. 2014 numbers will be out probably next week. 40% of those are tractor related, rollovers, runovers, PTO, entanglements, okay? If I say the word bypass starting to anybody in here, what does bypass starting mean?
Reach up and start it.
Okay.
On the ground.
Okay, so I'm taking a screwdriver and shorting it from the solenoid of the starter to the frame of the tractor. Will the tractor start when it's in gear? Yeah, well,
Some will.
where's the starter at in predominant relationship to the rear tire? Right in front of it. So we kill between 4 and 9 farmers per year bypass starting. So for agriculture then, it's 23.2 deaths per 100,000 workers, which again made agriculture the most dangerous industry in the United States. So if we take a look, here's ag at 23.2, transportation and warehousing is the second closest, almost a full 10 percentage points behind. Now, here in the upper Midwest, we have the feeling that agriculture is corn, soybeans, cows, and pigs. Tuesday night, anybody ever watch the Discovery Channel, so-called The Deadliest Catch? Commercial fishing is considered agriculture. Sunday night, you switch over to the History Channel, you watch the X-Men, okay? The logging industry is considered agriculture. So those injuries and fatalities are included in what you see here. Now, if you're watching Duck Dynasty, I still haven't figured out what that's all about. So why? Rural versus urban, 20 to 25 year history that the spouse is working off the farm to bring in cash, but probably more importantly,
Insurance.
insurance, absolutely. So they've done some studies. Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock is nap time to have a farming injury. So, Town of Turtle, Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. How many people can you send out on this first page?
You'll be lucky to get 4.
Yeah. Are you different than any rural department? Unless you've got a manufacturing base, daytime help's tough to come by, okay? So that's something we're gonna need to be considerate about as we get moving along here. So, work ethic, let's take for instance a dairy farmer. He's gonna wake up 5:30 in the morning, go out and spend a couple hours with the ladies, come in, grab a bite to eat, do some farm work during the day, come back in, 3:30, spend a couple hours with the ladies again, and depending on the time of the year, that might be a day's work. What happens when it's fall harvest season? What's gonna happen after supper? Get in the combine, maybe go to midnight, 1, 2, catch a quick cat nap, do it all over again. Now, a farmer today is responsible for less acreage than a farmer of 10 years ago, right? Much larger, so that fall harvest season may go on for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, where they're getting very little sleep, okay? So, not to jinx you, but if you have a call in the middle of the night tonight, what are you gonna be like at work tomorrow? Okay, what happens if you have a call tonight and tomorrow night? What are you gonna be like that third day, if you go? Okay, so think about that from the farmer, you know, and then from the other perspective, it's 10 o'clock at night, he's up in the combine, and he's listening to the radio, and they're saying there's a snowstorm coming 2 days from now, 8 to 12 inches. What's he gonna do? Push harder and work right through, you know, getting very little sleep. And when we get very little sleep, we take shortcuts. When we take shortcuts, that's where injuries can happen. So, specialized population, okay, of those 500 fatalities, about 100 of them are kids under the age of 18. What do kids in trauma do to your pucker factor? Tightens it up, right? Okay. Now, let's check and make sure that you're following with me. How many been here know a farmer? I expect everybody to raise their hand, okay? How many been here know a retired farmer? How many knows a retired farmer that stays off the farm when they retire? So, farming's not a job. Farming's more of a lifestyle. And we have a bell curve in agriculture. 0 to 18 is a dangerous time to be on the farm. About 35 is the safest time to be on the farm. What's the average age of a farmer in the upper Midwest today?
47.
It's about 57. Okay. But then once we get to be 70 plus, we start having a tremendous amount of injuries and fatalities again. And there's a reason for that. We go back to that same dairy farm. Son's getting ready to buy dad out. For years he's been telling dad, let's go buy a new tractor, more horsepower, GPS. Dad says, this one's paid for, do you understand? We don't owe any money on it. So the son goes into dad, he buys the farm, he goes and he gets that tractor that he always wanted. Dad still wants to help. Which tractor's dad gonna get? The old one, with maybe a tricycle front end, possibly no rollover protection structure, okay? So, Dad's been grinding feed long before it came in vogue to wear hearing protection. So instead of that selective hearing his wife thinks that he's got some real hearing loss. He's been dairying in the days before the new parlors. You think he's got some knee and some hip problems? Can't hear quite so well, he can't move quite so fast, and we're putting him on a piece of equipment that is more dangerous than what some of the newer equipment is. And that's kind of a recipe for having some issues. So inclement weather. Working for the community college, I just turned 50 last week. I got 2 days off last year because it snowed. Do farmers get those days off? No. Could it be more dangerous for them? Yeah. By the way, those 2 days off came with the grain bin down in Mississippi and Louisiana. They got 3 inches of snow and it locked them up solid. Nothing more as far as that goes. So, specialty locations, where's your ambulance coming from?
City.
City? Okay, any of those ambulances 4-wheel drive? No. So if this incident happens in the back 40, can we get the ambulance to them? Maybe able to get to them, but can we get the ambulance back out? That might be a problem. So we're taking a look at Rangers, Gators, mules, things that we can take and we can put a cot on. 4-wheel drive pickup truck. Does it matter who's driving that when we got a patient in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet it does, okay? So we need to think about that. So specialized extrication, okay? This is going to be a specialized training that we're doing tonight, but when we get into combines and augers, a lot of times we get out the jaws. Okay, we're going to cut, we're going to get our patient out of there. But instead of being able to cut that, ag equipment's made to a much tougher specification. So Chief, that new $20,000 set of jaws we just bought, I kind of broke those in this morning's call. So if we can't use the jaws, we're going to have to get out hand tools and disassemble. What's that going to do to our on-scene time?
Push it.
Raise it up. Average extrication time in America for a grain bin rescue from the time the fire department gets on scene is 3.5 hours. We're going to be there for a long time, okay? So, gross contamination, severely mangled extremities, high incidence of previous farm trauma, and of course hazmat situations. So what county are we in tonight?
Rock.
Rock County? Is every grain bin in Rock County covered by OSHA rules?
Doubt it.
You gotta doubt it, okay? Anybody wanna? Got a no, a no. Anybody think yes?
I would say it should be.
Okay, we got a should be. Okay. Would you believe that the answer to that is yes and no? Is that clear as mud? Okay. The family farm exemption, any family farm that has 10 or fewer employees throughout the year is exempt from OSHA rules, okay? But that means that that farmer can go in the bin any way that he wants to. But what happens if the bin breaks down and he hires somebody from the service company to come out and service it, and that service person needs to go into the bin? Do they need to follow OSHA rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. So it's not the bin that's covered, it's who's entering. What about us from the fire department? Do we have to follow OSHA rules? Yes, we do. So, a grain bin is considered a confined space. So as we take a look at confined space, if it meets one out of those three descriptions, it is a confined space. So let's go through there. It's large enough and it's configured that an employee can enter and perform work. Is that a grain bin? Yeah. Limited means of ingress and egress. Is that a bin? Yes. Not designed for continuous human occupancy. Is that a bin? Yeah. So we're gonna go one step further. Beyond confined space, there's permit required confined space. So if it meets the definition, has the potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere, it's considered a permit required confined space. Is that a grain bin? Yeah. Two farmers are at a grain company in Iowa, Waverly, Iowa, 2 years ago, died in a grain bin. Okay, they weren't trapped in the bin at all. How'd they die? Okay. They had a fire in the bin the day before. The fire used all the available oxygen in the confined space, but it left 500 parts per million of carbon monoxide. 50 parts per million is your OSHA max. Okay, so we need to take a look. So when we start talking about confined spaces, that gives us 5 automatic rules that we need to be thinking about. Number 1, nobody under 18 is allowed into a confined space. So just like if we have a junior firefighter, they can't go into a structure fire, they can't go into a confined space. Number 2, we need to do air quality sampling. We need to make sure that we've got good oxygen content and that our LEL is not there, as far as that goes. Number 3, we need to lock out and tag out the power source to the auger, okay? We don't want that auger turned on when we're in there, and actually farmers shouldn't be in there with the auger running either, okay? Number 4, everybody going in needs to be wearing a body harness and be tied off outside the space, okay? Who in here has worn a body harness before? What's the important thing with guys in body harnesses? Should be a phrase that's very familiar to you.
Tight.
High and tight, okay? Because if you get strung up by your body weight and it's not on correctly, you might be talking a little differently. And we're gonna talk crushing compartment syndrome when we finish it up today. Trust me, that's not a place you want, crushing compartment syndrome. So we wanna make sure the harnesses are on right and we're tied off. Bin manufacturers have not been good until the last 3 to 4 years with giving us tie-off points up top that we can use. So I'm going to show you a way tonight that you can make tie-off points really pretty quickly. In about 5 minutes, you can make 2 5,000-pound tie-off points. If not, where's your closest ladder truck? Boy, how tall is the stick? 105? Can we tie off when it's up in the air and support weight?
That one can, yeah.
Okay. So that's something we want to take a look at, okay? If not, we may need to pull up the bumper, tie off to it, bring, 80 feet up, in, 60 feet down, 40 feet across to where our victim's at. Remember, you need 1 rope for the victim, 2 for the rescuers, 2 for the RIT team, and 2 move our equipment back and forth, okay? So those are things that we need to think about. And number 5, the rule is broken the most in confined spaces, and especially in agriculture, is entering into a confined space is a minimum of a 2-person job. The person entering into the bin, and then there needs to be a reliable attendant outside whose one and only job is to be watching what's going on inside, okay? So if Jim's going inside and I'm the attendant, I mean I can't get out on Facebook and be saying, you really shouldn't be doing that. That's not a good thing, okay? I've got to be watching what he's doing. And if he goes down, if he stops responding, my job as an attendant is not to go in after him. If I can do non-entry rescue, if I can pull him out, okay? So in most confined spaces, we can hook up a tripod, we can, winch him out. Can we put a tripod on top of a grain bin? No. Okay? So, up to 60% of the people who die in America in a confined space are would-be rescuers. Okay? As the fire department, do we need that person when we show up on scene? How many farms or how many mills have 1 bin on them anymore? There are multiples there. Multiples. So we need to know which one, our victim is trapped into. So let's talk about the 4 main ways that folks get trapped in bins. The first, which is the most common and the most fatal, and what we'll be doing tonight, is when somebody goes in with the auger running. If they go in with the auger running, they can be pulled down to their waist in 15 seconds, and completely submerged in 30.
Fire department respond at 369. We're not getting residential fire alarm.
Smoke inside? Well,
There's a few.
who's up?
A person such as myself and trap me down to my waist, it's gonna take, that's so funny. My left leg resembles that one. It's 165 pounds. If you take a 165 pound person, you trap them down to their waist, it's gonna take 325 pounds of upward pressure to be able to pull them out. So if I'm trapped and you two come in to get me out of there, and you're gonna exert 325 pounds of pressure pulling up on me while you're standing in the grain, what's gonna happen? You're gonna sing. Now, you call me fat friend of all these people? Wow, it's rough crowd here. Down to my neck, 625 pounds of pressure, okay? So we're gonna pull somebody's arm right out of their socket, okay? So is that the answer?
No.
No. So the Grain Rescue Tube, there's 6 of them that are commercially available on the market. The thought process is we're gonna build a cofferdam around our victim, and we're gonna remove the grain from them. So most people will become trapped in grain when the grain gets just above their knees. Most people will be able to get out when they get the grain just below their knees. So that's what we're gonna take a look to see what we can do. So tonight we've got some scoops that we're gonna scoop to be able to get grain out. We'll also show you the Grain Rescue auger that you can use to be able to move a little bit more grain a little bit faster. So if we go back to the family farm bin that's there, if the auger gets turned on down below, it's gonna pull grain straight down, okay? So somebody's gonna be going with me to empty that out tonight. If I was to take a tennis ball on top of that bin and sit it there and turn the auger on, how long is it gonna take that tennis ball to come down through and out the auger?
Not too long. It'll be
Not
the
very
first-
long.
One of the first things out.
Yep. So the way it's designed is to pull things straight down. So if a human gets in there with their body weight, it's gonna pull them straight down and into that. So if I try to put rescuers up in the grain right here, what could happen? We could push grain on top of our victim. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that, how we can get in and work with that. 2010 was the worst year on record in America for grain engulfments and fatalities. 2014 came very close to topping that, and 2015 is in the running, okay? Could have told you that January 1st this year. How would I have known January 1st this year that it was gonna be a bad year? The corn went in wet. What happens in the upper Midwest in January and February? It freezes, okay? So now, we feed it from the top, we empty it from the bottom, we create a void area there. So as somebody walks across there, there's 6 to 7 inches of crusted grain, it can't support their body weight, and they fall down through. Now they've got injuries from the fall, they're trapped. What's gonna happen when we go to put a rescuer in there? The rest of it's gonna fall down. Conversely from that, grain stops coming out. Okay, so they go in thinking they've got an empty bin, and they've got grain caked up along the side. So they try to hit it with a pole or with a shovel and knock it loose, and it avalanches down around them and traps them. Now, there's an emerging trend out there. You've all heard of the dangers of texting and driving, haven't you? Would you believe there's a problem in agriculture with texting and using a grain vacuum? Because if I'm using a grain vacuum, and I get a text message, and I read it and I respond to it, what do I do with the hose while I'm doing that?
Set it
And the
down.
grain at my feet. What's it doing the whole time that I'm responding to that text?
When the rain's coming in.
Sucking grain out and pulling me down. There's been 3 documented fatalities with that now. Okay, so something that we need to take a peek at. So when we get there, we need to follow those 5 steps again. So we need to check, is the victim tied off? Okay, we're gonna do air quality sampling. We're gonna lock it out, we're gonna tag it out. We're gonna put our people in there. So we're gonna stop the unloader, we're gonna lock it out and tag it out. You guys have a lockout, tag out kit on your truck? Okay, perfect. So if I lock out something and tag it out in business and industry, who gets the key?
Or the guy in charge, so you don't.
Okay, but business, in business and industry, who gets it? I do, the person who locks it out. And if I leave at 4 o'clock and you're coming in at 4 o'clock, how do we work that?
Sign off on
Yeah, either I take my lock off, you put yours on, or we switch and be able to do that. So in the fire service, if we lock it out and tag it out, who gets the key? The chief, okay? Because one of us, could we be asked to drive the ambulance? Yeah. When are we gonna remember we got that key? Get to the hospital, okay? Where's the chief going unless fresh coffee and donuts are delivered?
Well, he should be going anywhere, but.
Yep.
I'm gonna be there till they're gone.
There you go. So we need to think about that. Now, starting the aeration unit, okay? If somebody goes down underneath the grain, is that an automatic death sentence? No. Is there oxygen in that packed grain? Yeah, there is. Think about it. Can a rat live down in the grain?
There is oxygen, but it's not very good if it's,
Yep.
for example, that crusted stuff, you don't wanna breathe that. The guy that's in there, he's not breathing very well, because that's pretty bad air.
Yep. But there is oxygen in there. I got to meet a gentleman down in Kansas who was trapped under 6 feet of soybeans for 3.5 hours, and he lived, okay? He was wearing a hat, and as the soybeans collapsed on him, the weight pulled the hat down over his mouth and his nose, okay? So think about that. Can a rat live down in the grain? Every day, right? Does a rat have a nose and a mouth? Lungs and a rib cage, just like we do? So why can a rat live in the grain and we can't? What size of a rat's nose? Is it big enough to get a soybean or a kernel of corn into? No. When do they open their mouth? Right? Okay. What about us? Is our nose big enough to get a soybean or a kernel of grain into? Yeah. And if we plug it, what's our automatic response? Open our mouth. Now, you may not realize it, but sitting here tonight, everybody, every breath you take, you are humidifying the air that you're breathing. What happens when we get that grain moist? It's going to swell up. Okay, so an autopsy, that's generally what kills somebody in a grain engulf. So, a lot of you are wearing ball caps tonight. If it's you going underneath the grain, get the cap off your head and get it over the top of your mouth and your nose. Okay? So calling for help, this is where we need dispatch's help. Because if this is a family member or a coworker that I like, sorry Jim, and they, I call 911 and they let me hang up, where am I going?
Going in.
I'm going in, absolutely, okay? So we need that person to be able to bring us in to talk about the person who's trapped, what their medical condition is, which bin they're in, how long have they been in there. We want to gather as much information as we can. Of course, we're going to be wearing a harness, we're going to be tied off as we go into the bin. To release a victim completely submerged in the grain, we are not going to use the unloading mechanism, okay? We're going to cut holes in the side of the bin. So if I make my first cut at 12 o'clock, where does my second cut have to be? 6. Do I want to cut 12, open it, come back, cut 6 and open it? Or do I want to cut 12, keep it closed, cut 6 and open them both at the same time? Same time. Then I want to move to 9 and 3 to be able to do that, okay? So, manufacturers want us to know that there's danger involved with cutting a bin over 20,000 bushels. So my question to you, do we make a bin smaller than 20,000 bushels anymore?
Sure.
Very rarely, okay, is what they're putting out, but they just put a bin up in Iowa that's 1.3 million
Yeah,
bushels.
so a picture of that.
Big, yeah. So, how is a bin designed to be able to hold that much weight?
It's round.
It's rounded by pushing out on the walls, so what happens when we cut holes in those walls?
Take it around this way.
We're messing with the integrity of the structure, aren't we? Okay, so we need to be aware of that. Okay. So factors of influence, you know, of course, our response time, personnel, access to the site, equipment, access and entrance to the bin, locating and removing any victims that are in there, and physical hazards. Time of day, you know, we talked about, you know, what we're gonna have for responders early in the morning. Location, weather, railroad, do you guys have a railroad in your district? Yeah, we do, so if we're going across there, we might, you know, get caught up behind a train. Distance, equipment, of course, access into the bin and EMS response. Right away, a lot of times farmers like to store scrap metal, so the price of scrap goes up. They may store it around the bin. That might be a hindrance to us. Is the farmer gonna plow snow from around the bin, or are they gonna plow snow up to the bin? Probably up to the bin, which could get to be a problem for us as well. Fencing time of year, livestock. Okay, who's my farmers in here? What type of animals do you got?
We don't have any anymore. Used to have beef cattle.
Beef cattle. Those beef cattle know you? I mean, you had coffee with them every morning. Did they startle when you came in? No. Well, if we get there with the fire department with the siren and with radios and stuff, are they gonna be startled?
Yep.
Are they gonna say, excuse me, Mr. Firefighter, I'm startled, and you're standing in the doorway, would you please move? Are they gonna give you that warning? No, okay. So we've got a guy in our department that animals don't like him. Doesn't make a difference, dogs, cat, cows, sheep, animals don't like him. They go out of their way to let them know. Myself, I think it has something to do with the Velcro and his rescue. Well, we won't go there either. Okay. So incident command, train people, having enough folks there. EMS, local folks who know the site, and elevator personnel. So equipment. You're gonna need a lot of equipment there. End loaders, grain vacuums, ladders, litters, rope rescue, saws, SCBA, EMS, lighting. Can I crawl into a grain bin and turn on a light? No. we're gonna need to provide our own lighting. We talked about the aerial crane, shovels. Have you seen the new shovels at the fire schools? They had it over the Monroe Fire School. New shovel that fits firefighters' hands. God, it's an amazing tool of what it can do. Did you see it? No? They haven't quite got it figured out for the county roadway worker yet, and what they've done for them is it's really created savings in the workers' comp. They've taken the pocket on their shirt and sewn it on upside down, now they don't fall off. All right, so shovels and air monitoring. But let's go back to the top. What's going to represent an end loader on most family farms? Skid loader. So if it's Tuesday at 10 o'clock, we get there, we cut holes into the bed at the 4 to 6 foot mark. Are we going to flow limitless amounts of grain, or is it going to stop?
Flow till it gets all down where it won't.
Flow until it gets there and then stop. So what are we going to do? We're going to move
Weight
it.
in it.
Nobody said cut more holes. That's perfect, because we only get 4, okay? So if it's 10 o'clock and we've got 4 people there, who's going to operate that skid steer? Farmer or firefighter? Farmer. Farmer, okay? I have 3 questions for you. Has a farmer been trained in emergency procedures if they're not on the fire department? No. Is a farmer that's outside going to know the farmer that's inside?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the rear view mirrors on that skid steer?
No, there isn't any.
So, I kind of ran you down the garden path. You can have a farmer run that, but give them specific directions. So if I'm standing where the grain's at, what I want you to do is to go from 20 yards out there, come, scoop as low as you can, go 20 yards that way, dump, turn around out there, come back, do the same thing, and then go to the 6 o'clock hole. Do the same thing. One thing I absolutely do not want you to do is just come and scoop and back up. Because does that make all of us targets? No. You betcha it does. Okay. So the industry's been sued a time or two. Okay? Both of people getting trapped and with bends collapsing. So they're creating warning decals. I've got a question for you. On September 9th this year, how many of you have cut the grass this year? How many have read the warning decal on your lawnmower this year? Nobody? So is warning decal going to be the end-all be-all to prevent injuries? No. Exposed structural stiffeners, do we want to cut through those? No. If they're interior, how do we spot them? The bolt patterns, we want to stay away from those if we can. Entrance hatches, a lot of different entrance hatches. Which one are we going to get if this is a rescue? Top one, okay, 21 inches up there. We're going to fit a firefighter in full bunker gear and an SCBA in there? Okay. Do we need full bunker gear to go into the bin?
Right, so,
Well, not necessarily, no.
depends on how much crap you got in there.
Yep. Do we need an SCBA?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's going to be dependent upon what our air monitor's telling us, okay, going in there. Have we ever been taught to wear an SCBA, go through a hole and put it back on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we make that hole bigger if we need to?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. So there's some options there. Access ladders, if we go back 30 years ago, the government bends, this is what we got. Can I tie off to that ladder and support body weight? No. So about 15, 20 years ago, we started adding a safety cage on there. Can I tie onto that safety cage and support body weight?
Not as well as the ladder.
Not as well, okay? Now, if this bend's 10 years old, this little rung around there, do you want to tie off and support your body weight to that?
No.
No, okay? So, that gets to be a problem. Now, some of the newer bins have these stairwells on there. Not only can we tie off to them, can we bring the victim out, put them on a stair chair and bring them down? Yeah, we can, okay? So we'll go through outside. I've got a little display to show you how you can, again, create your own tie-off point within about 5 minutes. And it's a 5,000-pound tie-off point. So, how many firefighters am I gonna fit up on that roof ladder? One, maybe two, up there, okay? Not a lot. So, sweep auger, floor outlet, this is where we run into problems. Okay, the grain's gonna flow through there to get down to the auger, okay? As the grain starts getting moldy and clumpy, it's gonna get like hard as a rock, and it's not gonna wanna flow down through there. So, tonight, I'm assuming the grain we have is going to be low moisture corn. You will sink farther and faster. Yes, sir.
How much grain should we put in the orange one?
Auger it up until you get about that much from the top of the bend level.
How do we turn on this auger?
The little switch that says on and off, it says hand. The one on the left-hand side.
Why can't you tie off them ladders and then bring them around the top?
They're just not made to support that type of weight. That's gonna be where your problem is. Because remember, you gotta tie off the victim. If they're not tied off, you gotta tie yourself and your partner, and then you've got your ridge beams as well. And those ladders weren't made to be able to support that. So on your fire truck, your ladders on there are meant to support 750 pounds per rung. These aren't. Okay? So grain stops flowing. That's why we get somebody in. So tonight we're gonna have dry grain. So you're going to sink faster and farther in dry moisture corn than you will in wet corn, but we get very few people trapped in dry moisture corn because it's gonna flow through the system very well. Okay? It's the high moisture corn that we're gonna have targets with. So aerations and dryer units. What if this is where my 9 o'clock hole should be? Anybody see a problem there?
A little bit.
So as we're doing our 360 walkabout, can we rotate our clock?
Yeah.
Sure, okay. So that's what our 360 walkabout's all about. Check out and see what some of those hazards are. So we talked about Beloit's truck is 105 feet. Okay. This leg's 115 feet. Somebody just crawled to the top of it and they're now complaining of chest pains and shortness of breath. Real call? Could it be? I guarantee you if I crawled up there, I'd be at least short of breath if I didn't have chest pains. Okay? So what are we gonna do? If we order a ladder truck and we get it up there, hey, you wanna jump that first 10 feet? Are there multiple answers to that? Yeah, but should we start thinking about that now? Yeah, do that. So lockout, tagout, physically ensure that all mechanical or electrical systems can be energized, started up, or release stored energy, are secured, isolated, disabled, and rendered inoperative. And then tag it out. Who does the wiring on a lot of family farms? The family. Do they label what they do?
No.
No, and if you ask them why, the universal answer is, I know what I did, okay? Couldn't we get there and find this?
Yep.
Which one's the bend?
Sure.
Which one's the auger?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we may need to shut down power to the farm. Okay, now let's not forget that we're talking here with grain bins that we're shutting off the power. Now, a grain leg, not only do you need to lock out, tag out the power to that, but you also need to lock out the leg if you're going to be doing service work. We went down when we were in Louisiana. We were in a place where there was a fatality 3 months before. They had a motor all the way up at the top of the leg that was burnt out. So the electrician got there. They wore their harness. They did everything they were supposed to. They got up there. He undid the bolts for that, but they didn't lock down the leg. So when they took the motor out, the leg started to spin. It caught his harness and brought him up and over and dropped him 95 feet. So lockout, tagout's not just electrical. It's also your hydraulic and your mechanical that you need to be taking a look at. What are you working with? So upon arrival, we need to set up command, lock it out, tag it out. Ventilation, communications. If I'm in that bend, is my cell phone gonna get a tower if I'm in that bend? Not always. What about our fire radios? Are they gonna work?
That's the one.
Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
That means we're gonna need to go back to first grade and play the telephone game. You remember that, don't you? So if I come up to you and tell you I need an oxygen system with an on-rebreather mask and a Stokes basket, okay? It's gonna go all the way through, it's gonna get back to there. He's gonna go to the truck and get me a fire extinguisher and a pipe pole, right? Isn't that the way that it works?
They're sending the chief probably.
But if I'm, I did not say that. I took my punch out of the chief earlier, okay? But if we're following incident command, if I tell you I need an oxygen system with an on-rebreather mask and a Stokes basket, what should you tell me? Exact same thing. Repeat it back to me. Is there any means for miscommunication there? No. Okay. So in the fire service, we're getting rid of using 10 codes, okay? People don't know what a lot of those obscure 10 codes are. So if you had a lot of soda this afternoon, you need 10-100, we'll be taking a break shortly. If you had Mexican food for lunch and you need the 10-200, please excuse yourself at any time. So some of you are laughing. You got what I said, okay? Others are thinking, did he really just say that? And then there's a third, and they're saying, what? I don't get it, okay? That's what I'm talking about. People don't know what some of those 10 codes are, so we use plain English to talk about what we need. That way there can't be the miscommunication. We want to gather as much information as we can. So from the spouse, we may get from her, he said he was going in to work on the bin this morning right after breakfast. Well, it's 20 to 7 right now. How long has he been in that bin? Probably since 7:30 or so this morning, okay? So, not a problem this year, last year, or next year, but 3 years ago, could have been last year's grain that was stored. What's the problem with last year's grain? Dust and mold. As we get in there and kick it up, we're gonna cause some problems. So when we get there, we wanna do that 360, okay? Check the outside conditions, check inside for atmospheric conditions, and also what type of engulfment are we dealing with? Full engulfment or a partial engulfment? It's gonna change the way that we set up and work with that, okay? How many of you here are EMS providers? Okay? How many of you that are EMS providers like to touch your patient within 30 seconds of getting on scene? Is that gonna be a problem here? Are we Euclid? Chief, how you doing?
Good.
He answered me. What do I know? He's conscious alert, he's alive. Did I touch him? No, I heard he got dog crumbs, rest of we won't go there. Okay? But, you know, don't forget about talking to him, okay? Now, EMS providers, I'm picking you one more time here. No matter what level of EMS you are, when you took your practical exam, you had to walk in and say 5 things automatically, or you failed the station. What are those 5 things you had to say? Scene safe. PSI, PPE, yep. Number of patients, okay. Leads me to my next question. Do farmers hire daycare? No. Where are those kids at? With them, okay? Now, if a kid got into that den and got trapped, as a dad, am I gonna call 911 or am I going in after him? I'm going in after him. So if we get there and dad's trapped here, where could the kid be? Down below, okay? So one of the first questions out of your mouth on any ag trauma should be, are you the only one injured? Okay, are the kids there? Are they present? We need to know that. So we're gonna have problems securing the victim. Again, up top, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's not everything that's been produced in the last 3 or 4 years, there's not tie-off points for us up there. Okay? So we may have to create it or make one with a ladder truck or tie off to a bumper. Once we get them out, okay? So EMS providers, again, we're gonna be dealing with crushing compartment syndrome. Crushing compartment syndrome, does that occur when all the pressure is on the body or after it's been released? After it's been released. Right away after it's been released, or 20 minutes to an hour?
Right away. It could take longer.
As soon as you
Could
get
take
them
a little
out.
bit to be able to do it. So am I gonna let them come down on that ladder under their own power? No. So I either need rope rescue, I need a ladder truck, or I'm gonna need to cut a hole in the bend to bring them out that way. So I need to start thinking about that right away when we get on scene. Personnel duties, command, safety, public information, record keeper, operations, team leaders, logistics. Didn't we just talk about having 4 to 5 people there to start with? Are we gonna be doing some double duty?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to talk about a couple of these in particular. Now, I just got here this afternoon, I didn't ask any questions, I'm not trying to impugn anybody, but in my humble opinion, in the volunteer fire service, we don't have a more abused position than the safety officer, okay? So walk with me. 23-year-old joins the department, gung-ho, makes every meeting, every drill, every call. About a year after joining the department, breaks a leg. 2 weeks after breaking a leg, we've got a 2-story building downtown on fire. He shows up. Can he be an interior fire attack person? No. Does he meet a lot of people's definition of a safety officer? He is breathing. Okay? So, about 20 minutes into the fire, we're worried that the structure is going to collapse. We get everybody out, we set up a collapse zone. What happens 5 minutes after we set up a collapse zone?
Collapse.
And what happens if it's an officer taking a couple firefighters with him? Is that 23-year-old going to say anything? My bet is no. Okay? So the safety officer has to have the teeth of a piranha and not be afraid to sink them into somebody's backhand side. If we're on scene for 3.5 hours, what's the chances we're going to get a reporter that's going to want to be talking to the command? Pretty good. 100%. Is that going to be able to happen?
No.
No. Are we fundraising on every call that we go on?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Okay. So if somebody's reaching retirement age, instead of letting them retire, maybe we talk to them about becoming a public information officer, send them to school, get them a brand new shirt, clean it, press it, have it here at the station, and it's somebody that can put forth that professional image that we want to project as we're going out there. Is the public information officer going to give them any more information than what we want put out? No, but it'd be done professionally, and that's something that we can take a look at. So this may be the host department, this may be the first mutual aid department, this may be the second mutual aid department, okay? So we need to know, if we call our neighboring departments, about how many folks we're gonna get, what do they have for equipment, okay? You guys use the Mavis system?
Yes.
Yep. So you've got that set up, ready to go. So cutting tools, tonight I've got a K760 saw. If you guys got a saw in your trucks that you wanna pull out and use tonight, it's a drill knife, let's do it, okay? But I'm showing you a reciprocating saw. Can I cut through a grain bin with a reciprocating saw?
Sure.
Yeah, the right
Yes.
way.
Could.
Yeah. Is it the fastest tool?
No.
But will it work? Yeah. If I'm cutting through a grain bin, do I need to worry about a grain dust explosion? Okay, so I'm getting the yes. If this is an extrication though, somebody's trapped in there, what do I need to have for a grain dust explosion? I need to have dust in suspension, in a confined space, and a spark. If this is a rescue, and I'm cutting into the bend, what's behind the panel I'm cutting? Packed grain, so I can't get dust into suspension, okay? But do I need a charged hose line there?
Yes.
Yeah. How many wake up for a car accident out of the interstate at 2 o'clock in the morning to be the one to hold that charged hose line? That's the job you want. No? Could it be the most important job?
Yes.
Yeah, it could, okay? Now, a couple things to think about. If this is a rescue, and the level of the grain is like this in the bend, and this is my 12 o'clock hole, I'm good cutting there, but what about my 6 o'clock hole? Can I have problems there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got all that dust there. When I'm cutting, I'm vibrating and I'm adding a spark, so I'm making it into a confined space, into suspension with a spark. There I could have a big problem. So we may want to look at using a grain vacuum at that point. So grain moving system, shovels, the grain vacuum. My bet is within 15 miles of where we're at, you have an ag company that has a portable grain vacuum. If you do, now's the time to talk to them. If we've got somebody trapped, would you bring it out? Okay. The answer invariably is going to be yes. So we've got your number Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday, 8 to noon. Do all of our emergencies happen then? No. Can we get somebody's cell phone number? If you do, take that, put it with your grain rescue equipment. Now, let's talk about that. You saw the tube out there. Do you have a place in a truck to put that? Most departments, the answer to that is no. Okay? So a lot of the grain rescue tubes are stored at the station with some other equipment that you're gonna need, and then put it into a pickup truck to be able to bring out. So if you get that number, take it and put it with your grain rescue equipment, so you've got it and it's available to you for this call. Okay? So for a partially submerged victim, when we get there, we're gonna lock it out, tag it out, assess the victim's physical and mental condition from the top hatch, reassure them, assess the danger of them being completely engulfed if we put our rescuers in. Now, I'm gonna do two things out with the trailer tonight, because one, I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face, but until you see it, you're not gonna get it. So, with every victim that we sink in there, the first rescuer who's gonna go in is just gonna get in the bin and walk around the grain. Is the victim gonna be able to feel you? Every step that you take, because when you step into the grain, you're gonna go in that far. Where's that grain going? Up against your victim, okay? So we're gonna use a very high dollar piece of rescue equipment. We're gonna take a Pepsi crate, we're gonna flip it upside down, okay? We're gonna stand on that. Instead of you sinking into the grain, it's gonna keep your body weight up and put it out over a foot by foot area. And as we do that tonight, the victim's gonna say, either I just barely felt them get in, or I didn't feel them get in at all, okay? So a couple things, Pepsi crate, Coke crate, Dr. Pepper crate, I don't care, okay? Go into your local supermarket, ask them, can the fire department borrow 20 of those? We'll bring them back anytime you'd like to have them, okay? Chances are, when you walk out the door with 20 of them, they'll never remember you got them, and you're good to go, okay? Nice part about them is, though, is you can stack 20 of them together like this, okay? So they're better than a milk crate, because how much space is 20 milk crates gonna take up? A lot of space, okay? So that might be something to take a look at that we're gonna wanna add to our rescue equipment. So for a completely submerged victim, we're gonna start the ventilation, we're gonna lock out, tag out. We're gonna remove the grain, so we're gonna cut into the bends, okay? When we cut into the bends, we're gonna draw down the level of the grain and invert that cone. So the grain's in there like this right now. As we make the cuts, it's gonna start coming down like this, okay? We're gonna teach you tonight to make the standard V cut, okay? There are those that are out there that teach the upside down V, okay? And the reason they teach the upside down V is that it's wider at the bottom, you can fit a backboard through there, okay? I agree with that, but I'm gonna teach you the standard V tonight, because what we wanna do is we wanna open that up. But as the victim becomes visible, before we can put our rescuers in there, we need to stop the flow of grain. So we're gonna pull down and put a pike pole in there to be able to do that. It's darn near impossible to fold that back up when you've got grain flowing back over the top of you. So that's why we teach the standard V cut, okay? Now, once we get the victim to where they're visible, okay, we're gonna wanna stop the flow of grain and get in there with the rescue tube. So I have people talk to me that, hey, if the victim becomes visible, can't we just leave the grain flowing, because eventually they're gonna come to us? The answer to that is, yes, they will. But if I've got an 80-foot wide bend, how long is it gonna take me to drop 6 feet of corn out of there until the victim starts flowing? Long time. How long do they got if their nose and their mouth is plugged full of grain? 4 to 6 minutes. So as soon as that head becomes visible, I want to stop the flow of grain and get our people in there so we can suction them out, get them breathing, and switch over to the rescue tube. We never want to be in there when the grain's moving, okay, because that makes us a potential for getting engulfed as well. So equipment, full body harness, SCBA, dust mask, helmets, gloves, ladders, ropes, lighting, air monitoring, and of course patient packaging. Who's ever been in a grain bin before? Middle of the day, if you're in a grain bin, how much light's coming in?
Very little.
Very little. Very little, okay? So what about if this is at night? How much light's in there?
Pretty dark.
Okay, so we need to think about that. So a minimum of 2 opposing cuts, 4 to 6 feet above the ground in V-shaped cuts. Now, most of us are used to using the power saw to cut into roofs, okay, to make ventilation holes. So we're using the saw down here. Well, those saws are very powerful, so now when you take it and you want to cut 4 to 6 feet above you, I'm going to put my hand into that fan. It's going to happen, okay? Those saws are powerful and they're going to want to walk, so we need to make sure, one, that we've got a good foot placement. Two, whoever's cutting is going to have the arm power to be able to do that, okay? The saw we have tonight has a diamond tooth blade. So what I want to have happen is for you to take and put the saw up against the side of the bend panel, bring it up to full speed. When it's up to full speed, angle it in to the metal and let it cut. We want it at full speed when it touches the metal, we want it at full speed when it's cutting the metal, and we want it as full speed as we're pulling it out, okay? If you feel it bogging down, bring it back up, let it get back up to speed and start cutting again. It cuts better at a faster speed. Is a diamond tooth blade a sharp blade? No, it's not. So the speed and the diamond tips are what's doing that. If you let that blade stop when it's engaged in the metal and you pull it out, it's going to pull the diamond teeth off of there. Okay? Those blades are worth $300, $350 a piece. So you need to take a look at that and how we work with that. So we used to take duct tape and put it on there and then make our cuts. What happens if you cut through that duct tape? It gums up your blade. How many of you have kids in here? Little kids. Okay, they've got sidewalk chalk. They've got a color that they don't like. Steal that, put it with your grain rescue equipment. You use that sidewalk chalk to make your V-cut on there to pattern where you want that made. So grain moving equipment, okay? Now, we got pretty lucky this August. Outside of a couple days last week, it didn't get all that hot up here. But what happens if it's in the high 90s for several days in a row? What's the temperature gonna be in that bin?
Too hot.
Yeah, gonna be hot. Any air movement in there at all? No. If I've gotta get firefighters out there with shovels to be able to move grain, how long is a firefighter gonna actively be able to shovel before they're gonna need to go in rehab?
90-degree heat.
2 minutes.
10 minutes. 15 minutes.
Yeah. So if we go back to the Mount Carroll incident, I mean, they had over 200 firefighters there working with that. So a vacuum, a skid steer. Some of these bins, though, are close enough together you can't get a skid steer through there. That's where you might want a grain vacuum. But if you're going to need to shovel, we're going to need to have more folks there to make that happen. So if we take a look, this kind of shows by the year. Take a look at Wisconsin, 42 fatalities, 61 in Illinois, 104 in Iowa. So we're right in that area where these are occurring at. Distribution by age. I'm holding on.
Gee whiz.
That's right.
Oh,
Okay. I'm hoping at age 86 I'm still chasing my wife, much less going into a grain bin. But I need to talk to you about that 2 and that 3-year-old. Pumpkin patches are not just a place to go buy a pumpkin anymore, okay? They want to keep the parents there to buy the knickknacks and the hot apple cider. And now, I know that I walked uphill to school both ways in the snow, but back in my day, to keep kids there was a swing set and a sandbox. Unfortunately, they replaced the sandbox with a corn box. So my question for you, can a 3-year-old tell the difference between corn and a corn box that's fun to play in and corn in a gravity flow wagon that'll kill them?
Nope.
So should we ever teach them to play in grain? My answer to that's no. I'll step down off my soapbox now and won't keep moving. Distribution by month, if we take a look at it, September, October, November, December, January, it falls back off and it goes back up in June. That happened again this year. Why June? We're selling it off, so we're getting into the bin to be able to unload it and get it out of there. Buckling stiffeners, do I want to cut anywhere around a buckling stiffener?
No.
No. So as we're doing our 360 walkabout, we want to try to identify that, okay? So if there is something there to tie off, by all means, we want to try to use it. This is what we're going to do tonight, okay? We're going to trap you down to your belly button, and then we're going to go in as 2-person rescue teams to be able to get you out. Now, the question that I always get, not even here, can I trap the chief down to his chin tonight? Could I? Yes. Will I? No. Couple reasons there. If I trap you down to your belly button and you can't move, did I prove my point?
Yeah.
Why would I ever want to involve your respiratory system? Okay, as far as that goes. The other thing is, I want to get everybody into that bend tonight who wants to get in, okay? And if we trapped him down to his chin tonight, that might be the only evolution we do until 10 o'clock tonight, okay? I want to get people in and out of that bend every 12 minutes tonight, okay? I've got 6 harnesses out there, okay? So we're going to work in teams of 3. So she's going to sink first. Who would like to rescue her? Somebody would like to rescue her. There we go. There we go.
She's
Okay.
starting to panic.
So, we'll get the 3 of you, let's go with you 2 as rescuers, okay? We'll get the 3 of you in harnesses to start with. Go ahead and grab your gear and bring it out because you need your helmet. I've got 3 more harnesses there, so I'd like to get 3 more people to get harnessed up and get ready to go. As soon as they come out, 3 new people go in, okay? When they get done, as they come down, help them get the harness off. They can turn around and help you get a harness back on. Putting a harness on, does that count toward our scene time? Yeah. So folks in here who've worn body harnesses before, okay? Have you ever put on a body harness that you need a master's or a PhD to put on? They can get to be tough, okay? Let's talk about harness maintenance, just as we talk about SCBA's, okay? If he wears an SCBA and takes it off, fills it, puts it back on the truck, set to his size, how am I gonna do if I need to put it on in an emergency? Not so good. Now, that's a fat joke.
You can do it by calling him names, how you can do it.
Well, exactly. But it's the same thing with the body harness, okay? We need to take it and set it back out there so the biggest person can get into it and size it to them quickly, okay? So we need to think about that. If we've got multiple people on scene, can we help somebody put on their harness? Could that reduce our scene time? Sure, absolutely it could, okay? So we'll work on that as we get out there. With the harnesses we've got, you should be able to step right into them, pull them up, tighten your waist. You're gonna bring it up and over, tighten it here, tighten your shoulders, and then tighten your legs. So when you come to get out, reverse it. Loosen the legs, unhook this, flip it up, loosen here, and step right out of it. Please don't unhook the legs or unhook the shoulder, because that makes it tougher for the next person to be able to get in there. You've got to take a look at the harnesses that you have and set your own protocol for how you're going to be able to do that, okay? So, let's finish up medical-wise, okay? Crushing compartment syndrome. It can be life-threatening. It's difficult to treat. It's difficult to treat because we can't see it. It's all happening internally. So if we take a look at that ankle, that was not caused by blunt force trauma. That was caused by pressure from within. So at the interstate, you ever respond out there to a head-on accident? They fly them out, and they're worried about the pressure on the inside of their head. If the pressure goes up, what are they gonna do? Drill a hole to relieve the pressure, okay? That's something they're gonna take a look at doing with crushing compartment syndrome as well. We're not gonna do that, but that's what they're gonna do at the hospital. So, compartment pressure increases most likely in the muscles of the lower legs and the forearms, okay? So, if I go in and rescue you from the bend, he's gonna say, thank you, you guys can leave now, okay? Are we gonna let that happen?
No.
No, because again, when does crushing compartment syndrome set in? A little bit later, okay? So we need to get him into the ambulance, cut off his pants, his boots, his socks. We need to find his pulse in both feet. When we find it, put an X over where you found it and circle it, okay? So you can find it again as you go back. We want to have him take his feet and push down on my hands and push up on my hands every 5 minutes on the way into the hospital. And that needs to be documented. So if he came out of the bend at 7 o'clock, at 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, we should be documenting that we're checking for pulse motor sensory. As crusher compartment syndrome sets in, we're gonna have a hard time finding the pulse. Where the foot was able to move like this when I first came out of there, at 10 minutes it may be like this, and at 15, that might be the only movement that you're getting. We need to document that so they can see what was the onset of the crushing compartment syndrome coming in. Look for the 6 Ps, pain disproportionate to the injury, pallor, pulses, paresthesia, paralysis, and any pressure that's there. Inspect the appearance of the extremity. Check the appearance of the extremity that they're complaining about versus the one that's not. Is there any difference in the appearance there? Administer IV fluids, elevate the injured extremity, cleanse any open wound, and be checking pulse motor sensory. Now I want to go back to IV fluids, okay? I showed you before a picture of an eyeball that was sprayed with anhydrous ammonia, okay? That is, in my 24 years of being a medic, I've never seen a more painful injury than somebody being sprayed in the face with anhydrous ammonia, okay? So most ambulances will carry 2 1-liter bottles of saline with them that they can take and they can pour on there, okay? if you are, where's your closest transporting hospital? Beloit. So if you were southeast or southwest, how long is it gonna take you to get up there? From the farthest point in your district?
Southeast about
25 minutes. 2 1-liter bottles of saline, is that gonna be enough to keep that cool? No. Spike an IV bag, okay? Instead of starting an IV with it, hook it up to a nasal cannula. Hook up the nasal cannula, put it right on the bridge of the nose, and you can drip, irrigate both eyes on your way into the hospital, okay? We need to stop that burning process, okay? And copious amounts of fluid is what we're gonna need to make that happen. If they're sprayed in the face or in the eyes, their automatic response is gonna be to slam those shut and try to keep them closed. We need to get it open, and we need to provide copious amounts of fluid to stop that burning process. Okay? So, if we take a look here, they made one single solitary cut there, okay? As the injury expands, they're gonna keep it moist, they're gonna keep it sterile. As the swelling goes back down, they're gonna suture it, okay? And this is how they're gonna prevent it from having loss of function, because if that ruptures, that could get to be an issue. My brother back in 1979 was critically burned. They brought him a half an hour up to Dubuque and flew him down to Iowa City. By the time he got to Iowa City, his testicles were about that big around, okay? And they sliced him, okay? So, one, he was burned over 87% of his body, 3rd degree, and he lived. But 2, he's got 4 kids since that time. So by slicing and letting that happen, it relieved the pressure, okay? And things work the way they're supposed to, as far as that goes. So, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, this is what we don't want to see, okay? So, let's go back to incident command for just a second as we finish up here. Who's been on the department 0 to 5 years? 5 to 10. 10 to 15? 15 to 20. 20 plus. 20 plus, when we went out on a barn fire 20 years ago, when did we call for mutual aid? We didn't, okay? Now, if we're going out on a barn fire, when do we call for mutual aid?
right away.
Right away. Is that incident command at work? Yeah. 20 years ago, how many critical trauma patients could we fit in one ambulance? You're saying 1. How many people say as many as you could fit? Okay? So, I first became a medic back in 1994. At that point in time, we had the cot, we had the squad bench, and then we had 4 poles hanging from the ceiling that you could hang a backboard from, okay? So if you were on the squad bench and I was up on the backboard hanging, would you feel comfortable?
Not really.
That is a fat joke, just so you know. Okay? But seriously, how many trauma patients can we take care of? Serious trauma patients in one ambulance? One. Is that incident command at work? Yeah. So the people who've been on 0 to 5 years might think that's the way it's always been, but it really has changed, okay, as the fire service has evolved and taken a look at what we can do, okay? So, again, what I'd like to do, let's take a 5-minute break, get yourself something to drink, go to the restroom. When we go out, we'll get you 3 started in harnesses. We'll go through the rescue tube. We'll go through the rescue tube. As soon as we go through the rescue tube, we want to get some pictures of you guys getting the rescue tube donated to you. Then I want to go through lockout, tagout. I want to show you that tie-off point. I want to show you something that's new onto the market called a sump saver that will help prevent farmers from getting into the bend to start with. Because remember, they're getting in because grain's not flowing through. The sump saver mounts over the top of the sump. It has hydraulic lines that come out to the side of the bend. So if grain stops flowing, they hook up the hydraulics to the tractor and turn them on, and this spins at 1,600 pounds per inch, or 1,600 pounds per square inch, and it breaks that up so the grain flows through. So the possibility of somebody getting into the bend is now reduced, and that's what we're taking a look at. Then we'll go up and we'll sink her down, go through the rescue procedures to get her back out, and then, like I said, what I'd like to do is to split you into 2 groups and have you get into the bend and then cut panels. Now, the way that it normally works is there may be 3 or 4 that want to cut panels. Okay, I believe we've got enough panels out there that we can cut till our heart's content tonight, as far as that goes. Who carries hearing protection in their bunker gear? What? I knew that was coming. Who does? Okay. Think about it. Do we use some pretty loud equipment?
Yes.
Hearing, you know, is that really expensive? Maybe we want to take a look at putting that in there, okay? So we'll work through that. Again, it's my goal that if you want to get in that bend tonight, okay, either as a victim or as a rescuer, we can make that happen. Can I make it happen that you can both be a victim and a rescuer? I don't know if we have that amount of time, okay? So pick what you wanna do, whether you wanna sink or whether you wanna use the tube and see how it works as far as that goes. You got donated a very nice rescue tube. It's my understanding that a lot of the departments neighboring around here have the Great Wall. You guys are getting the KC supply tube, so it's a little bit different. And as far as how it gets put together, don't always forget, bring your neighboring departments in as a mutual aid, because we could use the rescue tube that you're getting to put around the victim, but if I've got grain in there like this, okay, I may want to use the Great Wall to build a wall, so if that grain starts to slide, it's gonna hit the wall and go around where we're working, okay? So we can use both of them together. We can't clip them together and make a bigger circle. That's the one thing we can't do with that, but let's focus on the activity with it and working together. So questions on the classroom portion? Yes, sir.
Now, you just mentioned one, try and put some kind of a wall around the victim. How you gonna hold it there? You got the weight of the corn up above trying to come down, especially if there's guys climbing around. You're gonna have to tie it off quick.
Yep, and there's tie-off points on the Great
Okay.
Wall that you can use to be able to do that, okay? Yes, sir.
Have something to add, when you're locking out the unload of the bin,
Mhm.
check the top of it too, lock that out.
Absolutely. You don't want anything moving when you're outside, so, yeah, check out, see if you can lock out power.
What about a grain bin you can't cut?
Like a metal, or, excuse me, like a concrete bin?
Tech tank, they're 3/8 thick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You could never cut a V and bend it, it just,
Then you're gonna need to take a look at, can I go higher to get it thinner, or can I get a grain vacuum in there, and start vacuuming the grain out? So, let's take a break, get yourself something. So, this is a simple $35 knockout tagout kit. So, in here, there's one of everything. Right, so depending on the electrical set that we have, if I've got a 20 amp breaker, okay, I can shut that off, put this over the top of it, tighten it down, flip it, put a lock through there and tag it out. Dan even locked it out, today's date, today's time. How long did that take? 20 seconds, maybe a minute, okay? If you practice with it, yep. Now, the other thing is, depending on the electrical system that you have, okay? If I've got a system like this on the bin, can I shut it off? Lock it, grab a tag it out, lock it? How long did that take me? Not long, okay? Now, what I want you to do is to think about this. If we sink a victim down into the bin, and we build the rescue tube down around them to this level, okay? And it gets to be the 2-hour mark, and a family member's there. And they're thinking, one, if they're a pessimist, he's gone. If they're an optimist, they're thinking he's live, but this is taking too long. What's the one way a family member knows how to get grain out of that bin? Turn the auger on. So if I've got the tube down to here on the bin, with the feet just inside there, and somebody turns that auger on, where's the first grain coming from? Inside the tube. Where's the second grain coming from? Outside where our rescuers are standing, okay? Now we've got 3 people trapped, okay? So if we take a look at it, lockout tagout is not a very expensive thing to have, but if we get there at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday and we've only got 4 people, can I take somebody and station them right here and say, no, don't touch that? Do I have the people to do that? No. So lockout tagout, I mean, you guys have one, that's great. But, I mean, in the fire service, have we spent $40 a little bit more silly than something like that? You betcha. So, that's lockout tagout. This is a permit. This is a sample permit, okay? I like to view a grain bin rescue as a low frequency, high risk rescue. Does it happen every day? No. If it's engulfed one person, could it engulf another? Yes, okay? So, this is a cheat sheet that you want to use before you put your people in there. So what are your gas readings? Who's going in? What time? Who is the victim? So what time are our people going in? What time does the victim come out? What time do our people come out of there? That's the documents we want to have, because if we go in and we do a grain bin rescue today, and at 2 o'clock in the morning he wakes up and he's not feeling good and goes to the hospital, should he tell the doctor he's been in a confined space? Do we want to go back and get that information as to what the gas readings were and how long he was in there? Yeah, we do. So it becomes part of our legal documents for what's going on. So I talked to you about tie-off points, okay? This comes to us from down at the University of Illinois. This is a sample of a 5,000 pound tie-off point. This is a 5,000 pound eyelet, okay? Now, in technical terms, on your cordless drill, you get a reamer. So it starts out small and it gets bigger, okay? You drill it out to 1/4 of an inch. On the other side, this is Schedule 40 piping, like what's used in natural gas and LP. You have your hole in there, you bring your eyelet through, put a washer on, and double bolt it. The University of Illinois has tested this, and it is a 5,000 pound tie-off point. So as you climb up the ladder, and your hole's right here, you put one in on this side, and you put one in on this side. That gives you two 5,000 point, two tie. Okay.
Yeah.
On the way over here, I had an Arnold Palmer. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Iced tea and lemonade. You know that if you add vodka to it, it becomes a John Daly. I had an Arnold Palmer today. I just can't talk tonight. Okay. This gives you a 5,000 pound tie-off point that you can create pretty quickly. Okay. The other thing is you know, with your Mavis system, you're going to probably want to get that ladder truck moving right away. Okay. So who's with the City of Beloit Department?
None.
Okay. So.
There is a difference.
Sorry.
There's a,
Sorry. Okay, that being said, with their ladder truck, 100 foot, boom, my bet is it weighs 75 to 85,000 pounds. Okay, fair estimate?
Probably.
How well is that going to four-wheel drive off-road?
It's not.
Not worth a damn. So there may be some bends you're not going to be able to get that back to. But I would give them a call early and get them there early. Because remember, we're going to have to rope up those 6 panels. That's going to take some time. If we get the ladder truck there, we put 6 panels in the bucket, raise it up, lower them down in. Okay? It can save some time for us. So as we're checking and getting these folks ready, what I'd like to do, can I borrow you? Can I have you go up the ladder and over to that side? We're going to hand all 6 panels up to him, and the drill and the Pepsi crates. You got a helmet? Okay, great. Helmet, gloves, glasses, if you would. Victim, helmet, gloves, glasses, got them?